Hi everybody and welcome to this movie. What motivated me to do this was I've been a big fan of the Blancpain Endurance Series by Petra GTC, and particularly of the 911 since its launch. I've driven quite a few races in the version 1. This is the version 1.6, which I'm just getting used to over the last few days. And I did a couple of laps last night on the Nordschleife 24 circuit because I'm practicing there for an endurance race that's coming up, and it just blew me away. And after a couple of laps I stopped and thought about it and wanted to try to, in my own mind, understand what it was about this car that absolutely knocked my socks off. And today I decided to perhaps share a little bit of that with you. Telemetry is back on here, so if you can just have a little bit of a look here as we approach the foxhole section of the Adnau forest at the brake and throttle inputs. You've got to get on the brakes, get the car turned in, get off the brakes again, get some throttle down to just settle down that big flat six engine that's sitting behind you. And that's the amazing thing about this car, the way it's laid out physically within the mod, it just feels real. I'm not the fastest guy out there by any means whatsoever, but I sold Porsche 911s for a living for 6.5 years and have owned one. And for my money, this car is one. Now the car's come along quite a bit since version 1. I won't bore you with all the details, but the suspension setup is much better. Rear brakes are a bit stronger, which causes problems until you realise that and make some changes. But once you've got this dialed in, it is just such a massive step forward on the version 1. It's really worthwhile. Now, of course, not as much comes through on a video as it does when you can feel it through your own hands, but hopefully if you're watching the car moving around and you can see that telemetry screen open, you can just see all of the little micro adjustments that you're making to conduct this car around the track. You feel it shifting around under you, you react and respond appropriately, and as you can see there with counter steer and throttle movements and brake movements, and you're working very hard to keep this thing pointed where you want it to go, but you can do it, and that's the incredible thing. It just feels real. Another big plus point for this vehicle is the sounds. I could sit and just listen to all of these Blancpain cars go around the Nordschleife. They all sound incredibly unique, incredibly authentic, and no different here to the 911. Speaking of sounds, the sun's coming down a bit here at the Nordschleife. It's getting all a bit moody and atmospheric, so I'm going to let you enjoy a little bit of music along with the video. I hope that's okay. So as the car goes around the lap, if I can ask you to just try to perhaps focus on how the chassis moves around when you see it on the curb, when you see it at turn entry, turn exit. And I do try to turn the telemetry on when there's key moments where you can see what's going on with the throttle, brake and steering wheel inputs. Thank you very much. Enjoy. Now as we approach this very tricky braking section for the Adnau Forest, I want you to keep an eye out for the almost manic movements of the steering wheel. The rear end of this car just wants to overtake you, so you've got to get it straight, get the braking done, back on the gas, a bit more braking again as you see the wheel twitching around just to respond to the engine's desire to overtake the front end of the car. And then the movements that you've got to make with the throttle and with the wheel to just plant that rear end of the car back down again when you need to accelerate. It is just absolutely beguiling because it is so realistic. Some other nice touches with this mod is the suitability for endurance racing and the need to manage and to look after the car to ensure its survival. For example, the standard lifetime of the engine is 27 hours and the maximum safe oil temperature is 112 and the maximum safe RPM is 8,600. Well, you can set a red line at 8,700. Basically, you can over rev the engine, you can over temp the engine, and you can quite easily pull that lifetime of the engine back from 27 hours to below 24 hours or even below 12 hours if you're too extreme. And that's not always the case. I mean, there are other mods out there for this same vehicle where the engine has a design life of 36 hours and the maximum safe oil temperature is 135 degrees. And the safe RPM is 1,000 RPM more than the red line. So basically, you can't brake that car, which just doesn't add the depth that you get when you're prepping a car for a proper endurance race to make sure that your temps, make sure your rev limits, and make sure all of those things aren't going to break the car. The car also generates a huge amount of feel. I had to turn down the car specific force feedback to about 65%, I think, from memory. So it all adds up to a car with fantastic feel, authentic behaviour, authentic characteristics in terms of temperature management, engine management, authentic performance. I've driven other cars that would do 320 kilometers per hour in a straight line, and GT3 cars don't do that. I've driven other cars that just don't give you any feel. They're just dead and lifeless underneath you. So in my own opinion, this delivers it all. This is the best 911 GT3 that's currently available. I know Endure Racers have been talking about working on theirs but still haven't seen anything yet, but this one's available now. It's fantastic. Get in there and enjoy it. Now, it's not all blue sky. A few things in life are perfect. For example, it's stable mates because the Blancpain Endurance Series comes with all the usual suspects. The Audi R8 LMS, the BMW Z4 GT3, the McLaren, to name but a few. And the Porsche 911, in fact, is a bit slower than most of the other cars. It's here at the Nordschleife in the BES911, I think I was doing about an 854, and my the second of my 2 laps here, which was a reasonably clean lap, the one you're looking at the moment, was a 906. So that's, call it 10 seconds slower than the Nissan. But that's not the end of the world. You can run this car in a one-make series, such as Porsche Cup, or if you want to run a multi-car series, set weight penalties on success. Winner gains 30 kilos, second place gains 20 kilos, third place gains 10 kilos, and then if you're outside the top 5, you you get 10 kilos off, etc. And over a season, all of the performances will be equaled out, as in real life, with balance of performance or BOP. But the experience of driving this car is just second to none.